Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. As a Michigan fan myself, I think I speak for almost every single Michigan fan that's going to be listening to this. Something needs to change on the offensive side of the football heading into week 3 for this Michigan program. Now, I think the conversation of what needs to change it, I think we can be quite frank about it. There's a lot of things that need to change, that need to happen in order for this Michigan offense to take a step in the right direction. I think the most popular conversation to be had is the quarterback position. A lot of people talking about Michigan should have went to the transfer portal and grabbed the quarterback in the offseason, which I think we all have seen throughout the first 2 weeks. Maybe that is true. That conversation doesn't really matter right now. Heading into week 3, like we have the quarterbacks we have, and there's some buzz around Jack Tuttle potentially getting healthy and maybe being the guy. I know some people are on the Jaden Davis train in terms of the true freshman, putting him into the fire, seeing what he can do. I think at the end of the day, for the quarterback position, we all recognize that we don't have a JJ McCarthy that's going to be taking the football field for Michigan in 2024. And so you have to design an offense. For one, you got to figure out what quarterback gives you the best chance to win. And then you got to get to work in terms of designing an offense where that quarterback can have success. Now, you can have the conversation about the quarterback position, but I think there's a lot of other things, really important things that need to change for this Michigan offense to have success in 2024. If you do not have a JJ McCarthy, a top 10 NFL draft pick at the quarterback position, people got to step up around the quarterback position. And quite frankly, we haven't seen that throughout the first 2 weeks of the season. I want to get into really two main talking points. One, what is the identity for this Michigan offense going to be? Like you go back to the 2023 season, there was a clear identity to this Michigan offense. There hasn't really been one throughout 2024, throughout the first 2 weeks. And I think, secondly, you got to find some playmakers that are stepping up outside of Colston Loveland. We're going to talk about that as well. Now, before we get into it, as always, to the Michigan fans, y'all know I'm a Michigan fan. It's been a frustrating last couple of days, but the amount of support y'all continue to show the boys, the amount of feedback and input you guys give, it means the absolute world. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, would love to hear your thoughts, opinions on the quarterback situation, on the offensive identity situation, guys that you think could step up for this Michigan offense. We'll chop it up in the comments section. Without further ado, let's get into this one, and let's start with the identity on offense. And Kirk Campbell got up in front of the media, and this is a quote: "We want to have the identity of, quote, downhill run game with complements to the perimeter and play action pass." I think that sounds pretty good to Michigan fans, quite frankly. That was the identity that Michigan had in 2023. I think the most frustrating aspect about that quote is, okay, you're saying that in front of the media on Monday afternoon. We're not seeing that on Saturdays against Texas. Let's talk about play action first. I mean, Davis Warren had 36 dropbacks. He had play action on 5 of those dropbacks, and Davis Warren was 4 or 5 utilizing play action for 30 yards. And so that was some of the more successful plays that we had during that football game against Texas, was using play action. We say we want to be a play action football team. We're not using play action. And it's been something that has been quite successful for Davis Warren throughout the first 2 weeks. And so, one, you want to see a little bit more play action, but I think it really does start with the run game. Michigan has not run the ball as efficiently as they were able to do in 2023. Now, we're going to have a deeper conversation with that in terms of playmakers stepping up. I think the offensive line obviously is still kind of getting their feet wet under them. Or again, it's important to remind ourselves this is a brand new starting five on this Michigan offensive line. A lot of these guys have been within this Michigan program, but not a lot of these guys have played meaningful snaps against programs like Texas. And so I think it's reasonable to understand that this offensive line is going to take a few weeks to kind of gel. I think we're all pretty confident in terms of the personnel that we have on the offensive line. They're just not playing together very good as a unit. Now, I think the second thing I want to kind of dive into here is compliments to the perimeter. We're not totally seeing that. And I would almost argue that, yeah, I want to get the football out to the perimeter to guys like Samaj Morgan and Tyler Morris. There needs to be an element of the vertical passing attack. And you go back to the Texas game, on throws 20 plus yards down the field for Davis Warren, he was 4 or 5 for 99 yards and a touchdown. 4 or 5, an 80% completion percentage, pushing the ball 20 plus yards down the field for 99 yards and a touchdown. Really, really successful pushing the ball down the field, but we're not really seeing it be a centerpiece in this Michigan offense. And you go to a play here that I kind of wanted to draw up for you guys on a 3rd and 2, and it kind of emphasizes how badly Michigan needs to more utilize the vertical passing attack, right? We got to looking at a 3rd and 2, and I understand it's a 3rd and 2, so you're trying to just kind of get the yards to pick up the chains. But look at what Texas has given us: single high safety, pretty much routinely. Texas is not afraid of what Michigan can do vertically because Michigan's not pushing the ball down the field. If we can implement some sort of vertical passing attack, we're probably not getting these kind of looks. One, it's really hard to run into a loaded box that we're seeing, but you roll the film here. We're trying to create some space underneath, but because of the lack, I mean, we're going a 4-man route tree because we're leaving Kalel Mullings in for pass pro. Look at the route trees here. I mean, there's no verticality here. And I get it's a 3rd and 2, but because Texas knows we are not pushing the ball vertically down the field, there's just no throwing windows that are getting manufactured in those short intermediate passing concepts. That's where Davis Warren wants to do his work. In order for Davis Warren to have success working those short intermediate passing concepts, there needs to be some sort of element of that vertical passing attack to open up some throwing windows on the short intermediate concepts. And you kind of freeze frame it here. Texas is just squeezing down on us. These defensive backs are getting absolutely no depth, and there's no throwing window for us to get the football to end up throwing a pick. And so that's one of the more frustrating things is this is a Michigan offense that is not really striking any sort of fear into an opposing defense. You go back to last year, we had guys like Roman Wilson or Cornelius Johnson at times that when teams wanted to give us those kind of looks, we could have Roman Wilson work the deeper third and go hit an explosive play. Right now, we're not asking our wide receivers to do so. And quite frankly, not many wide receivers have shown the ability to kind of do that. And so I think our second conversation here is playmakers need to step up, right? I think we all agree we're not having a JJ McCarthy in 2024. We don't have a legitimate difference making quarterback. Michigan can still win a lot of games with I mean, at times last year, Michigan didn't even treat JJ McCarthy like a difference making quarterback. Now, in those games against Ohio State or Washington, Alabama, at times JJ McCarthy was asked to do so. But we all know that Michigan can win a lot of football games without a top 10 NFL draft pick. But in order for us to do so, there needs to be playmakers stepping up. I want to start in the running back room because I just don't think it's been good enough. You look at Donovan Edwards, and I think there's a really nice clip with Donovan Edwards. And as exciting as Donovan Edwards has been during his Michigan career, as some of these big plays that he's given us against teams like Washington and Ohio State that has legitimately won us football games, there's also kind of a reason Donovan Edwards hadn't had the workload throughout the first 3 years. One, obviously sitting behind Blake Corum, one of the best running backs in Michigan history, but more importantly, the consistency and efficiency that Donovan Edwards gives us in the run game has a lot to be desired. We all know how explosive Donovan Edwards can be, but you take a look at this run play right here. This is the second play from line of scrimmage for Michigan. We're looking at a 2nd and 9. Now, I understand we're running a power concept to the right side of the offensive line. That being said, you kind of freeze frame it here. Blake Corum is cutting this back for 10 yards every single time. I mean, we kind of all see the holes that's getting created. And I think the biggest problem with Donovan Edwards is the instincts and the feel at the running back position aren't always there. I mean, this should be going for at least 6 or 7 yards, giving us the 3rd and short. But you continue to roll through the play. He, for one, does not attack the line of scrimmage, kind of stops, completely comes to a stop at the line of scrimmage. We end up getting, 2 yards on this one, 3rd and long, we're punting. And so you look at the running back room, it's got to be better. And whether that's Donovan Edwards, whether that's Kalel Mullings, quite frankly, I thought Benjamin Hall had some really impressive reps in that second half of that Texas game. We got to find a running back that can give us that Blake Corum kind of efficiency. Yes, Donovan Edwards, he can be the guy, but he's got to be better in terms of the consistency in which he runs the football. But we got to find a running back that keeps us on schedule like Blake Corum was for the last couple of years. I think it's Kalel Mullings or Benjamin Hall. And I think one of the more frustrating things is how do we talk about Donovan Edwards? Maybe he's not the bell cow for this Michigan offense, but he's still a dynamic playmaker, specifically catching the football. Donovan Edwards through 2 games has 2 catches for 3 yards. Donovan Edwards is one of the elite running backs out of the backfield as a pass catcher. We're not even using him like that. And I think the second conversation is outside of Colston Loveland, who is our guy in the passing attack. I think the biggest problem with Michigan's passing game right now is it's very one-dimensional to Colston Loveland. You go back to Fresno State, over half the completions that Davis Warren had against Fresno State went to Colston Loveland. You take a look at this when we had 22 completions against Texas, 8 of them went to Colston Loveland. The other 5 went to Samaj Morgan. You sprinkle in a guy like Tyler Moore's, CJ Charleston. I think one of the more frustrating aspects for me as a Michigan fan is go back to fall camp. All the buzz that we were hearing about Tyler Morris being the wide receiver one in this Michigan offense. Tyler Morris has 32 receiving yards on the season throughout the first 2 games. So we got to find other guys that are stepping up outside of Colston Loveland to really emerge. These guys are getting looks, right? Colston Loveland is drawing a lot of attention, specifically in the middle of the field, whether it's Samaj Morgan, whether it's Tyler Morris, whether it's Kendrick Bell, who we've seen kind of some flashes from throughout the first 2 games. Who are the wide receivers on the perimeter that are going to be capitalizing on some one-on-one matchups and winning down the field? Because again, Colston Loveland can still be our guy, and I'm very comfortable saying our passing attack should go through Colston Loveland. But if we're too one-dimensional and people are just kind of bracketing Colston Loveland, taking him away, which elite teams will have the ability to do so, we got to have other guys who can step up and give us some juice in terms of the pass catcher department. So, yeah, again, the quarterback position certainly hasn't been good enough, but the run game hasn't been good enough. The playmakers on the outside haven't been good enough. And I think, quite frankly, Michigan hasn't really found an offense, an identity on offense to really suit and play to our quarterback strength. I think finally the offensive line hasn't been great. You look at Evan Link, who ended up winning the right tackle job, beating out Jeff Percy, Andrew Gentry, guys that we thought would be pretty good. I mean, Evan Link gave up 10 quarterback hurries on 36 pass per opportunities. He graded out by far the worst offensive lineman from Michigan in that Texas game. I think Evan Link can get better. He's a redshirt freshman. We knew he was kind of a developmental prospect, and I think we were all excited when he won that right tackle job, but he certainly was not nearly good enough in terms of pass protection against Texas. So I guess I'm saying that all to kind of come to the conclusion of, yeah, the quarterback position is a significant downgrade from what we had from JJ McCarthy, but I still think we can win a lot of football games without a JJ McCarthy at quarterback. But the identity on offense needs to start to take form. We got to figure out how we want this offense to look and what we can do to consistently move the football. And I think outside of that, you got to have the playmakers to step up on the outside and in the running back room. I think the offensive line will be fine. I really do think as the season goes on, this offensive line is going to continue to get better. That's one of the things I really trust about Sherrone Moore. He does a phenomenal job developing offensive lines. I think you got to find your identity. You got to find some playmakers on the outside. That's what we're looking for here. Again, for the Michigan fans, I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments section. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Let's go take care of business against Arkansas State. Hopefully we can have a little bit more fun of a game reaction for Arkansas State. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.